This video, George Floyd, it's a hard video to watch, and yes, I have seen it. I don't do a story without trying to fill myself in with all views and facets that are available to me, so I have watched that. I have read multiple papers on it, multiple left-leaning papers, multiple right-leaning papers, and I have come up with my own opinion, and I am sharing it with you now. Now, a couple ground rules here. I firmly believe that if you see something that is important, and I don't mean being a Karen like your fries are cold and so you call the cops, that's fucking retarded, and then yeah, there goes the 2-minute fucking mark, but who cares? I'm having a heart-to-heart talk with you, and I hope you appreciate that. I'm talking about when something really matters and you believe that you are right. You speak up and you say it and you stick to your guns. And you make sure that you believe that you are right, because if it's important enough for you to say something, then you should say something. But it's a delicate balance, because you also have to go into it with the opinion that if better evidence or a better argument comes up, that you are more than willing to change your mind on the subject. That said, this is my opinion on what I saw and what I believe. In Minnesota, a suspect and an officer, and yes, I am purposely leaving race out of it because I don't believe we are there with this one. I believe it is a officer slash suspect slash civilian thing. He was suspected in a crime, so I'm using the terminology suspect because that's why the police involvement was there. Before the video started, all accounts say that the suspect was resisting arrest and refused to get into the police car. However, once on the ground and subdued, he did say that he would get in the police car, but the officer had told him, well, you refused earlier. The officer had his knee on the suspect's neck and pushed it down, and you could see the strain on Floyd's face. Floyd had said, please, I can't breathe. My stomach and my neck hurt. Please, I can't breathe. The officer ignored this, and bystanders started chiming in, saying that they were killing him. After 8 minutes total, 2 minutes of that, about 2 minutes of that, Floyd was limp and unresponsive. And yet the officer still remained with his knee on Floyd's neck. I mean, the reasonable person, the reasonable individual of sane mind in a situation, and I know hindsight is 2020, and it's hard to gauge the emotions in the situation. I mean, there's a reason that most witnesses to a crime don't remember the face if there's a gun involved. They remember the gun. And you'll get multiple witnesses with totally varying descriptions. It's the spur of the moment. It's the excitement, and it's hard to get past that unless you have specific training to train yourself to look at things like the shoes, which normally don't get changed, even if people change their clothing. The belt, the height, the voice, the context, things like that. And if you don't have that training, it's hard to get through it. And cops are human beings. I mean, we have to give them that caveat. They are human beings. We don't know specifically what happened before this video started. We have some eyewitness accounts, but we don't have a video. And eyewitnesses' accounts do say that he was struggling. However, once he was on the ground and unresponsive, and he was no longer a threat to himself or anyone around him, which obviously you could see that he wasn't a threat. I mean, good Lord, the guy was giving up. He was afraid he was going to die. He was giving up. At that point, I believe the reasonable person would take their knee off his neck. I don't care what his charges were. I don't care. That is regardless. It's a human life. But be careful of the things that you fall into and of the things that you believe, because people are going to try to bring race into this. And buddy, let me tell you something. And this is where I really want to have that kind of connection and that heart-to-heart with you. There comes a point in life when you have to realize that there are multiple perspectives to almost everything. And I have come from multiple perspectives of life. I've had money back when I was doing bad things for money. I grew up on the streets, and I came from the streets of, well, I came from the school of hard knocks. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Not only did I come from the School of Hard Knocks, I aced the courses and I became the goddamn fucking professor of the School of Hard Knocks and graduated myself out of the School of Hard Knocks. But my experiences have told me that there are multiple perspectives to almost everything. But there are always going to be people who can't see anything other than that which is sensational, and that's the race. It's a white officer with a black suspect. But that doesn't matter. I don't believe that was the case. I really don't. I believe it was more of an officer versus a suspect. Now, this is going to be a little bit inflammatory, but there are a lot of good officers out there, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of officers that you get that idea that they were the kid in high school who had been picked on in the playground all the time, and when he was given a little bit of power because the teachers felt sorry for him and gave him a little baton that said he was the hallway guard, the bathroom guard, the keeper of your fucking bladder, and they all of a sudden had a sense of power, and it was like, you don't have power. You had the power given to you. And the flip side to that, with the other officers watching, is this. Who do you protect and serve? Do you protect and serve each other? Is that what your oath is? Is there a secret oath that we're not aware of that you take in the locker room that says, hey, yeah, I know I said that I would protect and serve and protect from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and this and that, and all this other stuff that probably went in one ear and out the other, and then in the locker room you had a different oath that you took that said, yeah, this oath overtakes the other oath and we will protect all officers at all costs. Those other officers, how can you be a human being and watch another officer end another individual's life, knowing that this individual is not a threat at the moment, not a danger, and what the hell? You stand there and you do nothing, and it happens repeatedly. I believe that officers standing by and just watching this happen should be charged as well. But something has to be done in order to stop this from happening, because this isn't the first time. And it's not a race thing, I don't believe. It is a officer versus civilian thing. I don't believe officers go out. Specifically, I'm sure there's some idiot officers, but as a whole, I don't believe they do that. But be careful of your perspective on this. Hear dissenting opinions and weigh the evidences. Weigh the facts. Weigh them against what you know. Weigh them against what you hear, and come up with your own opinion. Do not let other people influence you any way or another. I don't want to influence you. I just want to be a spoke in the cog of your thought. And hopefully a reasonable spoke that says, hey, wait, don't jump to things that are odd. Do I agree that the officer definitely was in the wrong? Yeah, from what I saw and from what I've read so far, yes, I do believe the officer is wrong. Unless presented with new, better evidence or new, better video footage from a different perspective that proves otherwise. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it. From my perspective and from what I've read, yes, the officer is wrong. But I don't believe it was race. And race is all you hear it about. I mean, it's everywhere. White officer, black suspect. But what if it's a black officer and a white suspect? Would the headline have been the same? History, which I am an absolute student of, because history will tell you where the future is. Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And that phrase is true throughout time. And history has shown us that no, the title would be an officer killed a suspect or a civilian. So be careful. Unless evidence shows that race was absolutely a factor, which I don't think it was. I think it was an officer who took his power too far, was too into the moment, had too much adrenaline, and couldn't think reasonably. And it's easy for us to hindsight 2020 pick it apart, isn't it? life is strange. But you can make it a little bit less strange by just opening your eyes and listening to different perspectives, and you'll be surprised how often you'll come up with your own conclusion, and 3, 4, 5 months later it's come out, oh, you were right. You stuck by your guns, and you didn't give up, because you thought you were right. And people would present with evidence to try to change your mind, but you weighed their evidence against what you knew as evidence, and it didn't fit. Something didn't seem right, and so you stuck by your guns. And that's what being, from my perspective, and forgive me, it's the only perspective I have, a man is all about, is being a man. If that's the perspective for you for being a woman, then that's the perspective. If that's the perspective of you from being a bacon double cheeseburger, if that's what you identify as, you've earned yourself some fries with that shake. I love you guys. There's nothing wrong with dissenting opinions. And fuck YouTube. I hate their censorship. Love you guys. I'll see you on the next one.